Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host this morning. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Sorry, I was a little bit late. A little bit of technical difficulty. I tried to turn my system on, and it was like, it's not connected to anything. I was like, really? We're doing this right now. Like right now. Of course, we're doing this right now because we're live. That's why we're doing this right now. But I'm here. You guys might see I've got a little bit of short hair going on today. I've got an appointment later on because I need to get my mammogram done today. I am of a certain age, and there are things that we do annually when we're of a certain age. So I encourage other women to do the same because, this is Women and Wellness Wednesday, right? And we want to make sure that we're not only taking care of ourselves physically, but spiritually and also politically. And we're going to have a special guest in the 8 o'clock hour. So I'm really, really excited. But with that, let's get started with our Kids Corner.
Lost. Ugh.
Well, hello there, Ivy.
Hey, Miss Tab.
Well, Ivy, what is going on?
I lost a game of pitball. I really wanted to win, but I didn't.
And how does that make you feel?
Angry. Ugh. Ugh.
I understand. When we play games, we don't know if we're going to win or lose. So it's okay to feel bad. But what matters is that we keep playing.
So you're saying I should go play again, even though I lost?
Yes, you know why? Because next time you might win, but you'll never know if you don't try. And besides, it's called pitball, not quit ball.
Okay, I'll go play again. Thanks, Miss Tab.
You're welcome, Ivy. You keep practicing, and I'll see you later. And remember, there's much more to playing a game than winning.
I will, Miss Tab. It's game time.
Come on in, it's tab time.
Yes. And we got a little bit of news from Miss Tabitha later on in the program. Again, just wanting to highlight women today. And I thought that was really cute. Yeah. Don't be a poor sport. That is something we should definitely teach children. There are a few poor sports that are professionals. I'm just saying, college. There were a few that I noted along the way. And, my husband's like, oh, you just don't like this person. I said, I'm not a fan of that person because, and I would say a fan, but um, I'm not really into that person because they are a poor sport. They did something in their athletic career. And I'm just like, yes, it was childish, but it shows your character. Just saying. You learn a lot about who you are when you play sports. When you do anything competitive, it brings out the best and the worst in you, right? And the worst of you that it brings out, those are the things in your character that you can really look at and say, hey, these are things I need to work on. Maybe I'm prideful. Maybe I'm a poor sport. Maybe I'm very arrogant. Maybe I give up too easy. I beat myself up, right? Those are the things that come out of being competitive. So don't ever stop trying, right? Even if you're a poor sport today, doesn't mean you'll be a poor sport tomorrow. Just realize that you're being a poor sport and change that character flaw, right? Because it can change over time. And is it going to be your little thorn in your side, Achilles heel? Yes, because God can work with that weakness, right? And it just is one of those things that you have to rely on Him for, right? To help you through it. So with that, let's get to honoring God with our body. And God, please guard our mind and guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. And God, please protect our reproductive organs. God, please help us to honor you with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you're joining us this morning, that is a pretty much a prayer that we do every morning just to set our hearts and our minds right for the morning as we get into a lot of this news that we have going on. So with that, I wanted to get into our first video, and this is about Miss Tabitha Brown.
Um, I really was not expecting this. And I didn't know it was the first thing. I said, oh, wait, they didn't already started. Okay. Um, I'm so grateful to be trusted with the mind of children. I'm grateful to be trusted by parents who see me and say, my child can watch this. She seems safe. Because we are living in a world where there are a lot of unsafe places for children and for adults. But to be part of the safe place is an honor. And so I'm grateful. Thank you to my Tab Time family, Jason Berger, Henry Sane, Sean Present, thank you. Thank you to my husband who better be watching at home, okay? Chance, I love you, babe. To my daddy and my son and my daughters. And yes, thank y'all to the Academy, to the Emmys. Thank you so much, honey. To the next time, baby, go on about y'all business, all right? Have a good night, and tomorrow have a good day. But even if you can't have a good one, don't go messing up nobody else's. Thank you.
And the one thing that I do appreciate about Tabitha Brown is that she is unapologetically her. She's been this way. Over the pandemic, she started, making recipes and doing things, and that's what she came about. Tab Time grew out of the pandemic. She has spices because she does different recipes that she shared with us online, and she's got a spice deal with McCormick that came out of the pandemic. We never think about the good things that came out of the bad times. And so she is definitely someone I want to, give a shout out to on Women in Wellness Wednesday. And congratulations being a 2-time Emmy winner. And with that, let's get into some of our news. Some of it, we definitely need to keep people in prayer because we have had some fallen soldiers. And so let's listen to this.
About the 6 individuals, or 4 of these 6, that paid the ultimate sacrifice as 6 U.S. service members died following and in support of Operation Epic Fury. We're learning their identities tonight, and I want to put up some of these here on Live Now from Fox as we continue on, including Captain Cody Cork of Lakeland, Florida. Also, we are following First Class Captain of Sergeant First Class Nicole Moore of White Bear Lake, Minnesota, also a Sergeant First Class. There, Noah Tejans of Bellevue, Nebraska, and Sergeant Declan Cody of Des Moines, Iowa. They were deployed out of Iowa as these now 4 of these 6 individuals identified following that incident in Kuwait. And you can just see here again, a 35, 42, 39, and 20-year-old losing their lives. And on social media, Major General saying to the families and teammates of those in the Cactus Nation soldiers, you have my deepest sympathy and respect. Our nation is kept safe by folks like these brave men and women who put it all on the line every single day. They represent the heart of America. We will remember their names, their service, and their sacrifice.
Yes, so let's definitely keep them in prayer, and that is Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Noah Tengens, Sergeant First Class Nicole Amar, and Sergeant Declan J. Cowdy. So let's definitely hold them up in prayer, their families, their friends. They have lost someone that they love, and we are grateful for their service and their sacrifice. And there's going to be a lot more of these conversations, unfortunately, because with war, there are casualties. That's what happens. And I'm just praying that this ends soon, that this isn't the beginning of anything perpetual, right? So, with that, I've also got some other coverage regarding some Israeli strikes.
News 4 days.
Oops, sorry, guys.
Strikes are escalating across the Middle East. Meanwhile, we now know the identities of some of the U.S. service members killed. This as calls grow for the Trump administration to justify the U.S. military attacks on Iran. Eyewitness News reporter Liz Nagy joins us live from our newsroom with the breaking developments. Liz?
David, President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio continue to offer shifting narratives as to why the United States struck Iran. Both have again changed their stories today, as the Pentagon has now identified 4 of the 6 service members killed in a retaliatory strike on Sunday.
These are the faces of American soldiers killed in action, the first deadly casualties of a rapidly expanding war triggered by joint U.S. and Israeli strikes in Iran. The retaliation by Iran has been swift. That was an Iranian drone narrowly missing the U.S. consulate in Dubai and sparing everyone inside. It's an unrelenting tit-for-tat, strike for strike. From the comfort of the Oval Office, President Trump took questions for the first time since launching strikes 4 days ago. ABC's Rachel Scott pressed the president. Was it Israel who forced his hand on Iran?
I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready.
But just yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Israel was a yes, with or without U.S. assistance.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties.
Upon arrival on Capitol Hill this afternoon to brief Congress, who has the constitutional authority to declare war, Rubio tried to clean up his previous explanation.
Let me explain to you guys this in simple English. Okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons, and this is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them.
Which one is it, Donald Trump? Regime change, nuclear weapons, missiles, an imminent threat to the homeland, or a preemptive strike to stop future attacks on the region?
Now, all but constant missile and drone strikes have paralyzed the Middle East, stranding roughly 1,500 Americans without a clear way to escape home to safety.
I know that officials have said, use commercial means, but there are really no commercial means here for us to use.
While members of Congress are now still working to learn more about these strikes on Iran, President Donald Trump said in a Truth Social post on Tuesday, more than 9,000 Americans have been able to return from the Middle East since the launch of the joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran. David.
Liz, thank you.
Wow. So there's confusion in the messaging going on. And is it a regime change? Is it a strike? Are we at war? Like, there's a lot of, I should say, I don't want to say different narratives, but that's kind of, what is going on. And I know that the media, not that they're taking anything out of context, they're just going by what you've said, right? They're just going on what you said. And so if the president's talking and Marco Rubio's talking and all these other people are talking and they go, why is the messaging different? Because human beings will have their different perspectives, even if they're talking about the same thing. They're not parroting. And so maybe that's good, but it's the conflict of what they're sharing. I think that's not looking good, right? It's not a good look. We'll just say that. Now, we're going to get into some more of this news, but I want to check the comments really quick and say good morning to those who have joined us. Good mornings, Bud. And Beyond Skeptical say, those aren't contradictions. I know they're saying the same thing, they're just saying it in a different way. That makes sense. All the above. It's I don't like this. I don't like this because, like I was saying the other day, I do not want to see another Vietnam. I do not want to see people losing their lives for nothing and then treated horribly when they come home after they've served this country. Now, there are some things here on this soil we better have straight. You better respect these men and women in uniform. They did not start this. They are servants. Okay? And they have orders. So there is that. Now, I want to get into some more of this news. I'm not going to flip-flop, but there is some news that's trending on X that I wanted to share with you guys. And so the Trump endorsements deliver strong wins in Texas, North Carolina, and Arkansas primaries. So Trump endorsed candidates secured at least 41 outright wins among 46 tracked races, including a clean sweep in North Carolina, with Michael Whatley beating his opponent by 49 points and Chuck Edwards by 40 points. Texas saw big victories for Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and House members like Ronnie Jackson, while Arkansas delivered wins for Senator Tom Cotton, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Not all races wrapped up decisively. Texas Representative Tony Gonzalez heads to a May runoff, but the results highlight Trump's high win rate above 80% in contested GOP primaries, fueling optimism among his backers. Because I know a lot of people were back and forth. They were like, they're going to win. They're not going to win. Now, I know one that's kind of controversial is going to be Greg Abbott, because there are a lot of people that are not satisfied with him as governor, but apparently he won in his primary. So the question becomes, all right, is he going to have an independent run against him? Will the person on the Democratic side, will they become governor, right? Because here's the thing, just because you win your primary doesn't mean you're going to win in the general. The primary is just who they're going to put up for the general, right? So these are primaries. So let's just remember that. Now, with that said, I got a little bit to get into because, oh my goodness. Let me see if I can find. Y'all seeing a little bit behind the scenes in my bookmarks. Okay, let's look at some of the Democratic results. I had to put everything in a folder so I could keep it all organized. So this is saying maybe it was okay. So she did not win her primary, but I wanted to play this clip before we went to her remarks about her primary. So let's check this out.
Once again, another mass shooting, this time on 6th Street in Austin. And just before you went on stage, I saw that your primary opponent and Greg Abbott had kind of gotten into it on X, and they both chose to use this moment to scapegoat the immigrant community. The shooter was a naturalized citizen. We've seen efforts already from the Trump administration to denaturalize citizens. My mother-in-law is a naturalized citizen who is incredibly scared. How are you going to balance comprehensive immigration reform, which we do need, and still treat our community with dignity and not use them as a scapegoat in these moments?
I don't know how it is that we got here. That what one person does somehow is then impugned on an entire community. The facts are the facts. The facts are that the immigrant community actually commits less crime in this country than anyone else. So the idea that we take this one incident, and that's what they do. Listen, every time there's some crazy situation like this, Black folk sit around and say, oh, I hope they're not black, because we know that that's going to be an additional target on our backs. We know that the immigrant community was probably holding their breath and saying, oh, I hope it wasn't an immigrant, because then there's going to be another target on their back. Listen, no one, in my opinion, is born in this country, and somehow when they're born, because of where they were born, they somehow now are automatically a criminal. That's not like a real thing, but that's essentially what you do when you decide to impugn an entire community. If I was to give you the facts on who the shooters have been in these mass shootings, I can guarantee you the vast majority of them have been white, male, and homegrown. But we don't see them taking any action on that. So at the end of the day, what we need to do is, number one, focus on the people that were hurt. That's what we need to do first and foremost, is make sure that they are able to recover, whether it is the physical wounds or the mental wounds. So maybe Greg Abbott should start talking about doing something better on healthcare access. We can maybe do that. Number two, we actually need to do something about guns. Don't sit there and say that it's the immigrants. Maybe it's your lax laws when it comes to guns. Now listen, don't take this as anti-gun, y'all, because y'all all know that I'm a gun-toting Texan. But I went and I got my license. So just like y'all want to come up with all of these encumbrances for people to actually get to the ballot box, which the last time I checked, a ballot is not going to kill you. But for whatever reason, it is easier to access a gun in the state of Texas than it is to access the ballot box. And you have to ask your question, why?
Wow. 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 Okay, I'm with this. Wow. That was a lot. She packed a lot in there, and it was very deceptive, confusing, and horrible. First of all, Second Amendment is a constitutional right. And all of the policies and laws that have been put around it so you can track people are horrible. And they actually do violate the 10th Amendment. So we'll just leave that where it needs to be. Second of all, immigration is unfortunately in a bad place right now. And the past administration exasperated, but immigration has always been a problem since we opened the doors in the 1960s. And the reason why it's always been a problem is because depending on the administration that's in the office is what they allow. The Obama administration, he's the deporter in chief, right? Higher numbers of deportation than any other president. During the Biden administration, they let anybody in unvetted, military-aged men. This person was from Syria. He was naturalized, okay, but he wasn't radicalized here. He was already radicalized when he became a naturalized citizen. So that goes back to the vetting process. How did he even become a naturalized citizen when he has no loyalty to America? That's a problem. And that's what's happening. And those are facts. Regardless of the melanation of his skin, he's not a Black American. And no Black Americans weren't sitting back going, oh, I hope he's not Black. Because the minute we found out he was immigrant, we was like, he's not us. What? Next question. And the bigger problem is the support that has been given to illegals by the Democratic Party specifically. You do not get off the hook for that. This is your problem. And it is a problem that you have put upon the American people. Like I said, her responses were very loaded because I know as a politician, you kind of have to get it all in. You have to make it rap and make sense. And it was indefendable. And I'm definitely still praying for the people who lost their lives and people that were injured in Austin, Texas. We've got a lot going on that we need to pray about, most definitely. Now, here, 8 hours ago, by Eric Doherty, he says Jasmine Crockett storms out of her own event after crying they cheated following her brutal loss. She said Republicans rigged the election in areas with high Black populations. I won't be back tonight. This is what Republicans do. How does the Republicans have anything to do with the Democratic primary? They can't vote. They can't mess with you. You're running for Senate and you're running for it within your own party. Ma'am, what are you talking about? This is crazy. Y'all gotta hear this. Y'all gotta hear this. Hold on.
So that's my news, is that we're not going to have election results tonight, in my opinion, based upon what specifically is taking place in Dallas County. Unfortunately, this is what Republicans like to do. And so they specifically targeted Dallas County, and I think we all know why. So I want you to enjoy yourselves, but I won't be back tonight because I have no idea of when we're going to get results, and I fully anticipate it won't be until tomorrow. So I love y'all too. Thank you so very much for being here. Love you down. I love you down, Dallas.
Okay, and I already told you guys how the Democrats get down. I was like, you have to get through the primary. They already told you they didn't want you as the nominee. You already told this. But you know what? I'm proud of you for doing your thing. I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? And I know, like, what? How are you proud of her? Look, anybody that runs for office and puts himself out there, look, good, bad, or indifferent, she did her thing. She didn't get the outcome that she thought she had, the momentum that she thought she had. And everybody tried to warn her and tell her, ma'am, don't do this. But she decided to do it anyway. Can't knock her for trying. I'm just saying. Now, this is what she was probably referring to. So in Dallas County, voters who are being turned away and told to go vote in their home precinct. Dallas County is run by Democrats, and they chose to do this, not Republicans. In fact, polls in Dallas will stay open 2 hours later, but only on the Democrat side. And I think a lot of this has come about because, they had a lot of redistricting. So if people weren't paying attention, right, to precinct changes, especially for the primary, this could happen. I could totally see any confusion happening. So let's get the take from this.
Place where I live is far away, and I just wanted to vote here and get back to work, and she told me she wouldn't let me. I was hoping she'll just let me go in. She said I'm at the wrong place. I can't vote here.
I've always voted here, say, 8 years in a row now. I've come to this location.
Now, one of the things they could have asked is, could they vote absentee? That's usually the fallback. If you are at the wrong precinct, you should get the option of absentee, but I don't know. States are different, and primaries are different. So.
But now they're telling me that I need to go to another location to vote.
Did they explain why?
No, they didn't explain why. And then when I went online yesterday, because I knew they were going to try to do this, I went yesterday online to register and everything like that to find out where my poll is, and it got me nowhere.
Place where I live is far away, and I just wanted to vote.
You nowhere, and you're a Democrat. Then what's going on, Democrats in Texas? What are y'all doing with your people? What is going on? So that leads us to this. A judge has ordered polling places in Dallas County to stay open till 9 p.m., but only for voters in the Democratic primary. Republicans are still scheduled to have their polls close at the usual 7 p.m. deadline. What's that about? So if you're going to do that, then you need to keep it fair for everybody. But a judge intervene like this, these are the things that are going to have to, that people are going to challenge for damages, even on the Republican side, because it's like, hey, maybe our people were having the same issues that these Democrats were. You guys have known about this since last year, since all of the grandstanding that happened last summer. Really? And nobody knows where they're supposed to go to vote? There should have been a whole campaign. What are y'all doing? Texas, oh my goodness, get it together.
here on the primary election. We've just spoken with Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins, who tells us that voting is now extended until 9 p.m. for Democrats in Dallas County. Okay, so that's the latest word from County Judge Clay Jenkins. We're getting confirmation on that, but right now it looks like voting for Democrats in Dallas County extended until 9 p.m. Republicans,
7 p.m.
The cutoff is still 7 p.m. as far as we know.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted on that. All right. Thanks so much. And nearly 4 years.
Yeah, and that's fair, right? Yeah, okay. So that's what's happening if you're in Texas. Okay, that's what's going on. Texas. All right. Now, with Trump, I already read over this. 32 endorsed candidates have won their primary elections so far, and these are the 32 that have won in their primaries. Our primaries here in Georgia aren't until May, so we got a little bit of time on the books. And here is a post about those fallen soldiers that I played the video on before. Definitely praying for their families and for their service. So grateful to them. And I also wanted to bring up Lindsey Graham. He says, for those saying Iran poses no threat, you're forgetting the regime has chanted death to America since 1979. The 220 U.S. Marines, 18 soldiers, and 3 soldiers killed in the 83 Beirut bombings, and the victims of IED attacks in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's saying he's thankful President Donald Trump did not sit idly by and decided to stand up for our country. I don't know, because this is a hornet's nest either way, right? We claim we, respect freedom of speech in this country. Even if you don't like the speech, right? Yes, they have been chanting death to America since 1979. So why are we letting people from there over here? We do have sleeper cells here in the United States from Iran, sir. So what are we talking about? So if we're going to have this conversation, then we need to have a whole honest conversation about everything that's been going on. Everything. Not one-sided and not propagandist either. Let me check the comments real quick. Sorry. Trump doesn't like her. He doesn't. Oh, good morning, sassy lady. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Let's see. Y'all got a lot of comments in here. Y'all, it gets so backed up and I can't read everybody's comments. It says Hugh Snyder says it's like you have to go beat up the bully down the street, like John Wayne said. It's a big job. Somebody's got to do it, Pilgrim. Yeah. And goodbye, Jasmine Crockett. It's crazy. Obama wasn't even American, and he came from Kenya. The one biggest problem in the Black community is that you identify with the Black community. Well, I think here's the thing. There's a lot of cleanup going on, in my opinion, in the Black community. There's delineating. I think people are starting to respect more of their lineage, where they came from, respecting others where they came from, and not mincing the two, right? Because I think everybody has a different agenda depending on where they come from, even within the community, right? Some people grew up middle class, some people didn't. So their purviews are different, their agendas are different. So I can understand the identity crisis. Identify as yourself, yeah. And Audrey says, well, if she got screwed, did Trump? Okay, I'm not sure. Or Republicans remember this. Okay. And Trump doesn't like her. He does not. Yeah, they didn't mince a lot of words, right? There were always kind of the back and forth situation going on. And this one I found very interesting. It says, so Trump, Israel's attack on Iran is a religious war now. So check out how they brainwashed American troops. American soldiers are being told by their commanders that a war with Iran is Armageddon and the return of Jesus. And Trump is the anointed one of God, according to American journalist Jonathan Larson. The commander of one of the U.S. Army combat units told his junior officers that a war with Iran is part of God's plan and that President Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus to light a signal fire in Iran, which will trigger Armageddon and mark his return to Earth. Soldiers speak of unrestrained euphoria among some command structures, portraying an attack on Iran as sanctioned by the Bible and linked to prophecy of the end of the world by the book of Revelation. One sergeant wrote that such rhetoric undermines morale and violates the constitutional oaths that soldiers have taken. Some people are very easily fooled, it seems. Meanwhile, Iran's Ministry of Defense spokesman, we have prepared for a very long war, and therefore it would be foolish to use our most effective weapons in the very beginning. The enemy has a limited stockpile, and everyone is aware of this fact. So this is a post. Troops were told Iran war is for Armageddon, return of Jesus.
This is nothing new. Throughout the history of the Islamic Revolution, even before the revolution, and throughout Iran's history, we have repeatedly witnessed crimes committed by the Americans. In 1979, during the 8 years of the Sacred Defense, especially toward its final years, we witnessed direct crimes. Each time they committed a crime, they received a decisive response, and this time will be no different.
Okay,
This is nothing
that was
new.
last year.
Throughout the history of the Islam.
Now that was last year. Okay. And this is another post, and this was today. U.S. troops were told Iran war is for Armageddon, return of Jesus. Advocacy group reports commanders giving similar messages at more than 30 installations in every branch of the military. This is scary. This is very, very scary. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we are not a theocracy. We are a republic. We have freedom of religion in this country. But there are some that hold positions that are Christians that believe, their way is the right way. And they get caught up in ideology. Now, let's just say somebody, and I guess we already had this, but it didn't fall out in a way that was interesting, but somebody's Muslim, right? And you could take this back to Barack Obama, because there were confrontations between Muslims and Christians at the time while he was president. Okay, because people kept saying he's a Muslim, he's not, he's a Christian. He was a Muslim. It all came out. It was a part of the Brotherhood. It all came out, right? But could he had set America on a different path, right? That was more Islamic. Yes, we are a nation founded under God, right? But that does not give us the right to dogmatically tell everybody else this is the right way. No, you're supposed to do right by people, regardless of how you feel. That's loving somebody, not impressing your ideology on them and making moves in an ideological way that's really emotional, right? You're making emotional, long-term decisions. That's always horrible, because that's not going to work out for anybody, because emotions change. You could feel one day, today, and feel differently tomorrow, feel differently next week. That's why you don't make long-term decisions in an emotional state. You stop. Now, in my opinion, we're going to be going over some more videos, but in my opinion, we got goat roped into this. Now, other people's opinions, as you've seen, it's like, oh, yeah, this is bringing about Armageddon. So now we're doing holy wars here in America? Like, that's what we're doing now. Really? Stop it. Stop. We as humans cannot do anything to bring back Jesus' return or not his return. Stop it. Because even in the Bible, Jesus says people will be saying, look, here it is, look, there it is, and he won't be there. We will know decisively when he returns. And there is nothing that we can do to speed up his return or prolong it. Jesus told us, he was like, I don't even know. Jesus doesn't know. Now, if Jesus doesn't know, how are we as humans sitting around here trying to stop it? This is bad. All the way around. Massive pile. Okay? Steaming. And the people in authority are going to have to figure this out quickly. Before the end of this month, y'all better figure this out. Because we do not want our babies in something senseless. And here's what I would have done. And I'm not the biggest on foreign policy. I'd have been like, okay, Israel, y'all want to do it? All right, do it. We're not helping you. We are not helping you. We will sit back and let you handle this. You're going to have to go to the negotiating table. You're going to have to deal with Iran. If you think Iran needs to be dealt with, deal with them. We're not coming. We're not sacrificing our men and women. The answer is no. Right? The answer is no. The Iranian people want freedom. They better figure out how to get it. There are certain things that are not our business. But now it's our business. Okay? And now Israel's like, okay, great. Now let's do this. Netanyahu needs to be removed. Okay? Because he's a big reason a lot of this is happening. Big reason. And like I said, I'm going to get into some more of these videos. But let me check out this other post that was done. And it's a Democrat in Houston. Mayor John Whitmer is hosting an exclusive Muslim gathering tomorrow night at his home of Dr. Zarfan, who has credible ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. The mayor promises Muslims shelter from ICE. Directly addressed anxious Muslims over immigrant status. I understand your anxiety. Not in the city of Houston. We are not federal officials. We don't interact with federal officials, effectively signaling sanctuary-style protection from ICE enforcement. He says his relationship with Muslims is strong and gets stronger each and every day. You know what? These mayors, if y'all don't handle these people, federal, if you do not handle them, because if they are harboring and hiding people, they need to be put in federal prison. It is a federal offense. Title 8, Section 1324. Period. Get it done. Get it done. Okay, I won't make y'all sit through 7 minutes of this, but this is where he stands. He wants to protect people that are here illegally. Because those are the only people that ICE is coming after. ICE isn't coming after. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even show you guys. I've just been talking, just running my whole mouth, right? Didn't have anything on stage. Let me see. Let me just show you guys just for reference, right? But this is what I'm talking about. This person. And the thing about a lot of these mayors in these cities, I know they're doing it for votes and clouts and whatever, but they are positioning themselves to commit federal crimes. And our AG needs to start arresting these people along with these state attorneys You need to arrest these people. They are violating federal law. I don't know what the holdup is. I wish I could figure it out. I just don't understand it. Don't understand it. Okay, so we are going to get into, I wanted to share this video with you guys because this was really disheartening.
Service in the military. Yesterday, I got pulled into an officer's office and counseled for posts that I have on my social media. During the counseling, they told me I'm under investigation as a threat to national security. When I asked for proof, like what the posts were yesterday, they refused to give it to me. They made me come back today to further go over stuff. They gave me the proof, and the proof they gave me are anti-Israel posts. Now, when I joined the military, I took an allegiance to support the United States of America. I did not ever take an allegiance to support Israel. But yet, I am deemed a threat to national security because I do not support Israel and their genocide against the Palestinian people. Yes, you heard that right. I am deemed a threat to national security because I don't support Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Since when does not supporting a foreign nation get a U.S. soldier investigated for being a threat to national security?
Yeah. See, and there's that going on in our military. That's not supposed to be. So we've gone from one end with the whole gender ideology thing to now another end with this religious ideology. Stop it. Stop. Those brave men and women that are serving right now, because I have worked at a military installation, they're serving this country. And I appreciate it. My husband is retired military. And I always tell him, I was like, you were loving me before you even met me. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, because you love me enough to sacrifice your life. He did 2 tours in Iraq and 2 tours in Afghanistan. Okay. And that was outside of his other military service. These brave men and women that sacrifice their lives are sacrificing it for the United States of America. Why are you telling them that they have to support Israel? That's an ideology. If you want to support Israel, the whole administration, that's your business. But if other people don't, and last time I checked, I lived in the United States of America. Last time I checked, I live on this soil. I'm not living on foreign soil. Or am I? Right? I mean, what are we really doing? What are we really talking about? It's really sad that that's happening in our military. And Brolchin says women used to wear bikinis in Iran. Now they wear bed sheets. To me, this is worth going to war over. Okay. And there are some people that do feel that way, that the liberation part, the freedom part. Now, here's my thing. Let's just say, and I'm just spitballing, there were people within Iran that came to the United States and said, look, we are kind of tired of the tyranny we're living under. Is there a way that you can help us so that we can, change the regime, and that's just regime change, you know what I'm saying? That we can put better people in office here so the people of Iran can be free, right? That's totally different than partnering with Israel and going in to free people, right? Because yes, do the people need to be free? Absolutely. But you still need a plan with somebody there so you don't create this vacuum so that worse people replace what you just took out. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know all the behind the scenes, and maybe that's going on. Maybe they do have better people that are going to be in a better position. Maybe Israel did make a deal with those people and they're going about it. War is messy. And again, there's lots of casualties and there's a lot of behind the scenes going on that we don't know. But the way they're moving right now, it looks really clumsy. And again, I don't want to see another Vietnam where people die senselessly. But I do understand your point of wanting freedom. Absolutely. Absolutely see it. Okay. So we do have a guest coming on. So I'm going to take a quick break and make sure that they get joined here with us shortly. So thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. The energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And today is Women in Wellness Wednesday. So with that, we're going to have our intro, and then we will bring in our guest. And today we have a very special guest, Takosha Swan. She is actually running for Lieutenant Governor here in Georgia. So I'm going to bring her up so she can finish introducing herself. Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Good. We can see you. You got nice light in the background, looking like sunshine. We love it.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes, yes. So please, I definitely, I said your name and the position that you're running for here in the state of Georgia, but please tell us more about yourself and where we can follow you.
Yes, I am Dr. Takosha Swan, and yes, I am here in the great state of Georgia. I am running for Lieutenant Governor of Georgia. My website, I'll put that out real quick, is Takosha, is TAKOSHA, just like it sounds, the number 4, Georgia, spelled out, .com. And if you go there, you'll learn more about me and why I'm running, but I'll share a little bit about that if that's where you want me to go, or you just...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the focus of my campaign is unity and legacy. So when it comes to legacy, lots of times politicians, we put them in office and they come in to create their legacy, but they don't come in to create a legacy for the people who put them in office, for the citizens. So you finally have not a politician, but a public servant who will do that. But a little bit about my background: I served in the military. That's where my public service. I'll say that's where my public service started for the government. Before that, I grew up in church. My grandfather was a pastor, so I definitely experienced public service there first. Joined the military when I was 18. And 9/11 happened right after that. I joined the military in 2000. And then 9/11 came and I went to war in 2003 in Iraq. And thank God I lived through that and came back. After that, I actually joined the Georgia Army National Guard as well. So I served in 2 branches. And during that time, I supported Hurricane Katrina. And so that was the beginning of my public service with the government. And fast forward, I ended up being appointed by Governor Kemp not too long after he was elected to be governor. I met him the first time that I ran for office. So this is my second time. The first time I ran for office was the first election was 2018, but it was around 2016, 2017 when I ran for state office, and the incumbent won. However, while I was running, anytime Governor Kemp's campaign, which he wasn't the governor at the time, he was the Secretary of State, but anytime his campaign needed support when it came to veterans, they called out to me. So I was helping with his campaign when it came to veterans. And ironically, after he was elected, a position became open for a state public office for veterans. And although many people put their resume in, I was appointed for that position because I was there during his campaign, even though that was not planned. I say that must have been planned by God. Served on as a state public officer for our almost 700,000 veterans in Georgia for the past 7 years. And I just resigned to run for lieutenant governor. There's more that I can do in this position. When you're in a position for 7 years, you do a lot. And if you want to continue to serve the people, then you need to look to see how you can do that. And sometimes that is moving into a new position. And so I'm running for lieutenant governor to ensure that I can do more for veterans and their families, but not just veterans and their families, but also for all Georgians. And so the legacy that I mentioned, I will be working on eliminating property tax for senior citizens. Starting senior citizens, they work their whole entire lives to have a home for their families, for themselves, so that they have something to pass down to their children and grandchildren. However, you can pay your home off, and if you miss paying property taxes, they a lot of them have incomes that are very low, and with that, they may not be able to keep their homes, even though it's paid off, because they have property taxes. So I would like to eliminate property taxes for senior citizens so that they can pass on their legacy of land. They can pass on their legacy of property to their families, their children, and their grandchildren. So it's time to build legacies for the people. It's time for Georgians to have a legacy and not just politicians.
Wow, that's good, and thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thank you for your service, serving. My husband served as well, because Iraq and Afghanistan, those were not, I would say, good times. for American citizens, right? And for our soldiers, because we didn't know really what you guys were getting into.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure everybody came home safely. And some people did, some people didn't.
Yes.
There was the whole Agent Orange situation that
Yes.
happened. There was a lot of things that happened during the Iraq War that people kind of forget only because we don't talk about it all the time. It's the strangest conflict that we've had, in my opinion, because it's the one thing you bring it up and people just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, why don't you want to talk about it? Because there were a lot of things that happened there that people don't want to discuss.
That's right. Very
And
true.
it's very unfortunate. But now we're in a new conflict, and of course, being someone prior military and you running for lieutenant governor, I'm going to ask you, this one's different with the conflict we are in with Iran. And the only reason I say it's different is because we're going into this with Israel. So it's not like it's just the United States going into this. So I'm going to let you talk, because I know there may be some questions that come from your response, but I definitely wanted to get your take on what's happening.
My whole take on war, period, and having when I went to war, I was I want to say 20 or 21 when I went to war. So, and that's most of the service members that go to war, they're young, very, very young.
Yeah.
A lot of us, we leave home and go straight into the military like I did. And when you're over there, you don't really know why you're there. Many times, because we're trying to just, okay, if you receive orders from the president, then you go, because the president is the
Commander-in-Chief.
Commander-in-Chief.
Yeah.
But on top of that, that's something that, when you go in, and there haven't been any drafts for a very long time. So we all volunteer to go in. And although it's important for veterans and service members to be taken care of when we come home, it is voluntary, and we do choose to go. The war, and really any war from the Bible days all the way up until now, is about resources. There's a scripture in the Bible, and it says that that money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And when there's a war, people die.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't support people dying in war. I believe that there are other ways. But unfortunately, just humans choose to move into the space of war. And that is why we have to have a military, because that's the way that things are set up in the world. And so for that, I'm glad that we have a military, because if we did not, we wouldn't be a country.
Right.
If we didn't have a military. And so when I look at this war, I don't look at this war really any differently when it comes to why there is a war right now. There is a war because of resources. And when two countries come together, or if it's one country, there is an alliance there for resources. They're just like the president says all the time, I'm going to make a deal. There's a deal going on. And there are things going on that we don't know, right? Even service members, even when you're in the military, you don't know. You're just doing your part. And your part is to go over there and fight, And so there isn't a lot of control there. The president has really complete control when it comes to the military and what's needed for the country. Also, he is privy to information that we are not privy to. And so when decisions are made, when it comes to the military and when it comes to war, there's really only so much you can say because we don't
Right.
know the whole story.
Yes.
And we probably never will.
Mm-mm.
And if anything ever comes out, I'm sure it'll probably be 50 years from now.
Yeah.
If it does, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very true.
so I really look at things from that perspective and being
Okay.
a veteran and having served in the war myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's very intense. It's sad the infighting that's going on our soil with it. Um, I still have other clips that I'm going to be playing after we have our exchange here. But I think the worst thing that I've seen is the messaging and how people have their view on Israel or not, right? And I had just played a video before you joined about a service member who has been told that he is a national threat to security because he doesn't agree with what's going on in Israel. And I'm like, how did we get here in our military? Right? I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not good. I mean, people should still be allowed to have their positioning and their freedom of speech. Now, I know within being a service member, there are certain things that you can or cannot have a position on, and it's unfortunate. I'm just saying, you can't take sides.
That's
You know what I'm saying? Y'all have to be Switzerland in essence, right? You cannot take sides. But I just found it interesting that it was like, okay, he could say death to whatever country and nobody would bat an eye. But is it because it's Israel that we have an issue? I'm just saying it's a sensitive topic right now.
Israel is one of those countries that there is, I don't want to say it even is, has always, again, back to the Bible days.
Okay.
There's always been a lot going on when it comes to Israel. So Israel is, from that perspective, they are special from that perspective because you don't look at other countries in the way that you look at Israel because of the history of Israel, because Israel has a heavy impact on the world when it comes to the Bible. And so a lot of people look at Israel from the Bible perspective as well, because they first learned about Israel from the Bible, not from anything else. And so it's like the world view of Israel is biblical. So you got the people who support Israel because of that perspective, and you have people who do not support Israel because of that perspective, because people have their own interpretations.
Yes.
People have their own interpretations, and interpretations cannot be controlled.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can never be controlled.
Yeah, because they're still opinions, right? It is, because you can look at it, and to your point, you can interpret it one way and interpret it a different way. But at the end of the day, there is fact in the material. Right? If you just read it literally, there is fact in the material. And so you have to always take your feelings out of it and your ideology out of it as well. And so now we're going to get back to your run for the state of Georgia, because I definitely want to see you win as lieutenant governor. And you mentioned the property taxes for the elderly. Now, I know that there has been a state bill to eliminate all property taxes for all Georgians. which I would appreciate because, I'm an empty nester. So I'm like, why am I paying for school? I don't have kids going to school right now.
Everybody asks that question. Everybody asks that question.
Yes.
The thing is, property taxes is on the county level. It's on the county level. And property taxes, it takes care of all the business concerning the counties.
Right.
And so, I mean, when it comes to schools, my children are still in school. I have 2 children and they're still in school. And so, of course, it doesn't bother me. I don't think it would if they weren't. If I'm living here and my neighbors' kids are going to school, would that bother me to support them? No. What bothers me is I think that's probably maybe the only thing on the property taxes that probably wouldn't bother me. Everything else, it's everything else that's on there that I would have an issue with, and having to pay for a percentage of the value of your home when you've paid off your home.
Right. Yeah, if they didn't, I don't mind the tax part of it if it's a city tax, but why are you leveraging my home
Right.
for the taxes? It's that part.
Yeah, that's the part that I do not agree with. And so, yes, for all property owners, because we have about 65% of Georgians own property. So that's a lot here in Georgia. So I am completely for everybody, right? Because I'm not a senior citizen, so I'm not even including myself in my proposal. But I want to make sure that, because I know that it's a process to be able to do that, right? And there could be a bill out there, but the question is, if all of if no one is paying property taxes, then how do you take care of the county?
Right.
Is the question. And so that's why I said, okay, let's do this. Let's take care of the senior citizens first, who soon will be passing down their homes to their children and grandchildren. And let's make sure they can do that. And let's make sure they can create that legacy. And then let's look at how we can fund and help all of the local governments to fund their governments before we take property taxes away completely. But I trust me, I'm a homeowner and I am for it.
Yeah, I'm glad it's interesting because DeSantis started talking about it. Now we're talking about it, and other states are talking. They're like, yeah, this makes sense, and it's like, yeah. And to your point, especially if you've paid off your home, why are you sitting around still paying taxes, right? That could take your home from you, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not against, paying for, police officers and other things like that. But when you get of a certain age, you don't have children attending school anymore, should you be paying a lesser percentage? In my opinion, yes. But your house should not be leveraged for the taxes.
That's right.
That part.
Absolutely not.
Definitely. Now, I'm going to ask the last question. So, you are running for lieutenant governor. I'm not sure how many people are running. I know of another person on the Democratic side. Are you running in a primary? So, or is that what is going to be happening in May? So they come up with someone to run on the Republican ticket in November?
Yes. So the primary is May 19th.
Okay.
I am on the Republican ticket. Most of the guys running, there's another lady that she just entered the lieutenant governor race, but we haven't seen her. And that's not throwing any shade on her, but we haven't seen her. It's just been me and a few other guys. Whenever we go to forums or whenever we have to go up and speak, I've been, the only woman that's, sitting there, answering the questions.
Right.
And so, yes, we have other people on the Republican ticket. I don't give their names out. I give my name out because I want you
Okay.
to remember Swan.
Right. Right. So
Remember
that's who
Swan.
you need to go out and vote for. So if you're in Georgia, make sure there's early voting. Early voting starts probably what, April?
I believe it's April. I want to say April 27th. I
Okay.
believe is when early voting begins. And
Okay.
and the major, day of voting day for the primary is May 19th. And I don't
19th.
think that people really understand how important May
It
19th
is.
is and how important the
Yes.
primary is, because like you said, the people who vote in the primary choose who will be on the ballot in November. So
Yes.
you should be choosing who goes on the ballot in November. You shouldn't allow other voters to choose who you will vote for in
Right.
November. You should choose. And so in Georgia, when it comes to the Republican lawmakers,
Okay.
and when it comes to the Democrat lawmakers, every Black lawmaker in Georgia is a Democrat. We have 0 Black Republican lawmakers in Georgia. We have none.
Yeah.
And so, when the conversation, comes up in reference to the Black community, and I'll speak on that because I'm Black,
Yeah.
receiving support from the Republicans,
Yeah.
we have to think about, have you voted for someone that understands your community
Right.
on the Republican side?
Mm-hmm.
No, because if we have 0, and in the last, I want to say, over 100 years, we've had one.
Wow.
We've
Wow.
had one in over
Oh my
100.
goodness.
Yes, we've had one, Melvin Everson, and pray
That's
for him.
it. Yeah. You're
That's,
not wrong. That's
yeah,
crazy.
that's it. And so, my thing is, here in Georgia, we can't complain about not receiving support on a Republican side if, whenever you have someone like me step up to run for office and to support all people, and actually have the knowledge of the Black community and the needs of the Black community, and you do not vote for someone like me, we really don't have room to speak on it until you use your power to put someone in office that can support you on the Republican side.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere. And I would love for it to be you, only because not only do you have the Black community in mind, you've also got veterans in mind. You're speaking about senior citizens, you're speaking about children because you have children. So you're
Yeah.
very well rounded as a candidate. You're not just, thinking one sided on this
Absolutely
issue.
not. Absolutely not. And I'll never do that. And when it comes to children, they're part of, the legacy in my campaign as well, because I want to put more in the public schools, more trades, so that the children can have skills when they graduate from high school that they'll have for the rest of their lives. You have these skills for the rest of your lives. You can start a business, and what can you do? You can pass those skills down to your children, and they'll have it for the rest of their lives. And so I'm here to build legacy for Georgians. And so voting for me, when you vote for me, you're not just voting for Dr. Takosha Swan, you're voting for your legacy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I had one comment in here that says, why does skin color matter in racism? And I think when you were saying from the Black community, I don't think you were really referring to skin color. I
No, I
think you
didn't say
were really talking about representation.
I'm talking about representation. I didn't
Okay.
say anything about racism
Yeah,
or.
because a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, calm down.
Yeah,
Don't get
I'm
too
talking
drunk."
about a community. I'm talking about communities, right?
Okay.
Every community, if you're Asian, Latino, or whatever you are,
Right.
if I'm
Yes.
Asian, I understand the Asian community more than I understand the Black community. If I'm Latino, I understand
Right.
the Latino community more than I understand the white community. Right? That's just common sense.
It is what
And
it
so,
is.
with that, you need representation. All communities in Georgia need representation. So,
They do.
the lawmakers in Georgia on the Republican side and the Democrat side, it should be diverse, so that we can
Mhm.
all come together, have conversations, and make sure that the needs of all communities in Georgia are met.
Yes. Yes. So everybody has a voice at the table. This is the constant thing that we complain about, right? Nobody's out there representing us. Well, we have Dr. Takosha Swan. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Look her up. Okay. Please give us your information again, and I'll make sure to put it in the repost.
Yes. My website is takosha4georgia.com. If you go on there and if you would like to contact me, if you have a group that you would like me to come out and speak to, I am available. And again, voting is May 19th.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on, sacrificing a little bit of your morning, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow because you're going to be at the Capitol, right?
I will be at the Capitol on Friday. I'm glad you asked
Friday,
that.
sorry.
Friday at 10 a.m.
Okay.
I will be at the Capitol filing for Lieutenant Governor.
All right. All right. Well, congratulations. And we are looking forward to you being the nominee for the Republican Party.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was my
All right.
pleasure.
Thank you. All right, you guys. So definitely give her a follow, and I will make sure that we put her website in the repost of the show. So now let's get into some more of this news. And thank you guys for sharing all of your comments and joining me here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. Now, I wanted to just check out the response from Speaker Mike Johnson. He just seemed very, you know how people get nervous? They're nervous. When I've never seen his body language or his voice sound like this. So I just want you guys to check this out.
Speaker Johnson is speaking on the Hill. We're going to go to that, and then we'll get to you after.
They gave us the rationale for what was done, and I was very satisfied with the briefing. It follows up on the original Gang of Eight briefing that we had more than a week ago, several days before the Operation Epic Fury began. I was satisfied at that time. I had, as I can speak for myself, as the leader of the legislative branch, the Speaker of the House, I had multiple follow-ups with the Secretary of State. I spoke with the President about it multiple times, and that was in advance of the operation, and we knew what was happening. I think there are two critical points that I just want to emphasize, the non-classified summary of what has happened here. First of all, to me, the most critical point is that this was a defensive measure, a defensive operation. And why is that? I took some notes, and this is not classified, so I'll tell you what I think is important. Israel was determined to act in their own defense here, with or without American support. Why? Because Israel faced what they deemed to be an existential threat. Iran was building missiles at a radical and a rapid clip to the point where our allies in the region could not keep up. As you know, Iran has long vowed to take out Israel, wipe it off the map, and they have long seen that as a critical threat to their very existence. Because Israel was determined to act, with or without the U.S., our Commander-in-Chief and the administration and the officials I just named had a very difficult decision to make. They had to evaluate the threats to the U.S., to our troops, to our installations, to our assets in the region and beyond. And they determined, because of the exquisite intelligence that we had, that if Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets. We have troops in harm's way, and we have many Americans in the region, and that was of great concern. If we had waited for all of those eventualities to take place, the consequences of inaction on our part could have been devastating. We don't know at what magnitude, but you can assume, because it is common sense, that if Iran had begun to fire all of their missile arsenal, short and mid-range missiles, at our personnel and our assets and our installations, we would have suffered staggering losses. And if we had waited to respond before acting first, then those losses would have been far greater than if we had done what we did. That was their decision. I can guarantee you this: if we had not acted, if the president, the commander-in-chief, had not acted as he did, those same officials would have been hauled in here by members of Congress and asked them why in the world they waited if they had exquisite intelligence, knowing that that would happen, that we would suffer such staggering losses. Why did they not act to prevent it? So I am convinced that they did the right thing. There's another critical point. What were the objectives? The objectives for our Operation Epic Fury, I am convinced, because I've now been to multiple briefings and I've understood the point of this, the objective was not regime change. The objective was to take out those missiles, the short and mid-range missiles, and their ability to produce them. We did that. That was objective number one. Objective number two was to eliminate their naval capabilities, destroy those and the missiles, and we are well on our way to accomplishing that mission. That is why I think the President has said, in his own words, the Commander-in-Chief has said this is going to be a operation that's short in duration. We certainly hope that's true. We pray for our troops and all those in harm's way, our allies as well. I am encouraged that our NATO allies are standing with us. The Arab states are largely standing with us, publicly, certainly privately. Iran was a great threat to everybody in the region and everybody in the world because it was an evil regime. The Ayatollah is no more. That was not the mission of the U.S. to go in and take out the regime, but that happened, and in my estimation, that is a great development for freedom-loving people around the world. If you guys want to make any comments, take questions. Go ahead.
Okay, he said there were 4 objectives, and he only mentioned 2. What are the other 2? The question is pending. Like, what are the other 2 objectives? So you took out the missiles, and it wasn't for regime change, but you removed the people in power. So did you want to leave a vacuum? Like, what? None of that made sense. You went in there because it was like there was imminent threat. There's always imminent threat. There's always somebody running around acting up, saying, I'm going to look, North Korea. You got somebody over there. Every once in a while, he'll try to swell up and everybody goes, stop that. And he sits back down and he stops that. Okay? Because he doesn't want that smoke. He just doesn't. It is what it is. You mentioned 2 of the 4. What are the other 2? Well, let's check out these questions.
Right here.
Sorry, Speaker.
Yes.
Do you guys discuss the need for supplemental to get some new munitions and other things that our military might need?
It was brought up in discussion. There are more details to be determined, of course. It depends upon how long the operation goes and what the need is. But our appropriators certainly asked that question, but I think there'll be some time before we can put a final number on it.
Speaker, is there at any point you think Congress will need a congressional authorization?
So, you know my background. I'm a constitutional law attorney. I'm a jealous guardian of Article 1 in the legislative branch. My understanding of the law, and has always been, and this is the tradition and the way the law has been used and observed over many decades, the president was acting well within his authority. What I just told you is the scope of what happened here and the situational awareness that they had at the time to make this decision. It was not, it's not a declaration of war. It's not something that the president was required, because it's defensive in nature and in design and in necessity, to come to Congress and get a vote first. And if they had briefed a larger group than the Gang of 8, you know, there's a real threat that very sensitive intelligence that we had, you know, might have been leaked or something. So this is why The commander-in-chief of our armed forces has the latitude that any commander-in-chief, any president always has, because they have a set of information that is sensitive, timely, and urgent, and they have to be able to act upon it. They did that. Now, there are, as you know, under our system, there are timetables that are involved here, but I think the idea that we would move a War Powers Act vote right now, I mean, it will be forced to the floor, but the idea that we would take the ability of our commander-in-chief, the president, take his authority away right now to finish this job is a frightening prospect to me. It's dangerous, and I am certainly hopeful, and I believe we do have the votes to put it down. That's going to be a good thing for the country and our security and stability.
But Mr. Speaker, how can you call this a defensive operation if the U.S. struck first, Mr. Speaker?
The U.S. struck in a defensive posture if we knew for a fact. Wait a minute. Let me answer the question. I thought I just did answer that question. If we knew for a fact that Israel was going to move, Iran was going to respond, and Iran was going to strike not just Israel, but the U.S. Remember, we're the great Satan, as they always say. Israel's the little Satan, okay? That they would act. We knew that intelligence. There was a name for the plan. We had all the information, all the intelligence. I'm not going to tell you how we knew that, but we did. We have the greatest intelligence operation in the world and the greatest military, and we had an obligation and responsibility to use it to protect our interest, our people first, our troops, and our personnel and our assets. That is an America first objective. That is the objective of the country. The first responsibility of the federal government is to protect the country and its interests, and that's what we did here. I don't know how it's...
Congress has the authority to declare war. Shouldn't it have authorized this war?
In my view, right now, our military and the commander-in-chief, he is presiding over the completion of an operation that was limited in scope, limited in its objective, and absolutely necessary for our defense. I think that operation will be wound up quickly. By God's grace, it will. That is our prayer for everybody involved, our troops and everyone else. And, of course, for the people of Iran, who are now rising up euphorically to have a chance for freedom, to have an evil, murderous regime removed. It is a great thing and a great time in history, and we're proud to be a part of it.
And see, like I said, it's confusing because first you're talking about the missiles and the military. You said it's not regime change. And then towards the end in your responses, you're talking about this evil regime being moved. Who's going to take the place of this evil regime? Are you leaving a vacuum? Is this another Gaddafi situation? I think that's my concern. Because I don't want to see us in a forever conflict and not call it war. Like, this whole thing that's happening right now is really, it's strange, it's odd. I don't know where it's going to go from here, but I want to make sure that people are definitely safe. Now, there's two different videos. I'm going to play you guys. The other one, I'm going to leave it to tomorrow because I want a fresh set of eyes for it. But now I want to take a totally different look and perspective. We're going to look at one perspective that's more on the biblical side and another perspective that's looking at the biblical side. So we'll start with that, looking at the biblical side.
Ordained by Jesus Christ to bring about Armageddon? I believe he may bring about Armageddon, but it's not in some holy manifestation of God's will. If even a modicum of what is contained in this article is true, we have a serious, serious problem on our hands. I have, for years, rang the alarm bell about white Christian nationalism, about Christian nationalism more generally. But really, it's all part and parcel. Christian nationalism is, by its very nature, white Christian nationalism. And according to this reporting in this Substack from Jonathan Larson, who is not just some rando with a Substack. He has written for publications. He has been a journalist for a long time. He is asserting that the United States military troops are being told explicitly this is a religious war. And moreover, this religious war is intended to bring about the return of Jesus Christ. Any commander who would enter into this kind of religious propaganda is violating their oath to the Constitution. and is giving, by virtue of the entire narrative here, illegal orders. We have a separation of church and state in this country, despite what Christian nationalists would have you believe. This is a secular nation. The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution: Congress shall make no law we do not have a state religion. This is the headline. U.S. troops were told Iran war is for Armageddon, return of Jesus. Advocacy group reports commanders giving similar messages at more than 30 installations in every branch of the military. This is not an isolated incident of one particular dipshit commander saying, we're here to bring about the return of Jesus the Christ, which, by the way, again, rapture theology came around in about 1833. If Christ was born right around the turn of the previous millennia, that would be right? Right around year 0. I think it's actually right around year 3 or so. It took 1833 years for someone to look at the Bible and say, actually, I think Jesus is going to come back. It's going to be a blaze of glory. So just to get that out of the way, a little sidetrack there about rapture theology. A combat unit commander told non-commissioned officers at a briefing Monday that the Iran war is part of God's plan and that President Donald Trump was, quote, anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth, according to a complaint by a non-commissioned officer. This is someone in the military, a corporal or a sergeant, someone who is of lower enlisted rank, like I was, sounding the alarm, saying, hey, whoa, this ain't right. What if this person isn't a Christian? What if this person doesn't believe in that particular offshoot of doctrinal belief in Christianity? Most Christians do not believe in the rapture, like Protestant, evangelical, Pentecostal, non-denominational, Assemblies of God types like I grew up. Most people don't believe it because it's a new theology. From Saturday morning through Monday night, more than 110 similar complaints about commanders in every branch of the military had been logged by Military Religious Freedom Foundation, the MRFF. The complaints came from more than 40 different units spread across at least 30 military installations, the MRFF told me Monday night. The MRFF is keeping the complaints anonymous to prevent retribution by the Defense Department. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to my request for comment. Look, we got a problem when the Secretary of Defense himself is hosting church services that I've covered, sermons by his pastor, Douglas Wilson, who believes that we should repeal the 19th Amendment and remove the right to vote from women, who believes, these are his words, women are people that people come out of. That's what he believes the utility and usefulness of women is. And he's preaching at the Pentagon during these bizarre church services. And now that message is being disseminated to the troops as a justification for Donald Trump's illegal and unconstitutional war against Iran. Great. One complainant identified themselves as a non-commissioned officer, an NCO, in a unit currently outside the Iran combat zone, but in ready support status, deployable at any time. The NCO said they were Christian and emailed the MRFF on behalf of 15 troops, including at least 11 Christians, 1 Muslim, and 1 Jew. Full email will be printed below. I'll link to this Substack below. Support this person's work if you have it in you, if you enjoy what they write, if you find value in what they do. Supporting independent media, as you hear all the time, is very important for this very reason. Because you're not hearing this in CNN, you're not hearing this in New York Times. This isn't an article that I'm reading from the Washington Post. This is independent reporting. The NCO wrote to the MRFF that their boss, but in an elevated station, their commander urged us to tell our troops that this was, quote, all part of God's divine plan And he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has enshrined evangelical Christianity at the uppermost levels of the U.S. military, airing monthly prayer meetings throughout the Pentagon. Last year, the Pentagon confirmed to me that Hegseth attends a weekly White House Bible study. It's led by a preacher who said God commands America to support Israel. Monday's email from the NCO said that their commander's remarks, quote, destroy morale and unit cohesion and are in violation of the oaths we swore to support the Constitution. Well, at least somebody within the ranks of the military is understanding and taking seriously their oath to the Constitution. Support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I guess since we're here, and I don't want to paraphrase it, we'll just read it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That seems pretty succinct, pretty clear. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. This would be an establishment of religion. Muslims don't believe that Jesus is coming back. Jews don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. Well, neither do Muslims. But evangelical Christians do believe those things. That Donald Trump was ordained by Jesus Christ to bring about Armageddon. Half of that, I believe. I believe he may bring about Armageddon, but it's not in some holy...
Now, let me pause him right there. Not all Christians believe that. Let's just be clear. Now, there have been some people that have said, God has placed him there for a purpose, right? But not to bring about Armageddon. No, stop that. When I think about God and when I look at what God is doing, he's not doing anything that isn't cited in the Bible that you can't go back to literally and look at and go, yep, that's kind of on task and kind of on point as to what scripture has laid out. Now, there were alarmists in the 1800s that did come about and say, oh, it's the end of the world. There were people doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And even in other, we haven't even talked about the Seventh-day Adventists that are Christians, but they believe in following the Sabbath, but they also believe in following the, how should I say this in a nice way? Say this in a nice way. The convictions of someone to the point where they quote that person like they do Jesus. That's not right. That's ideology. And it's the one thing that person that lived by those convictions said don't do. But people are who they are. So we really have to get back to what are people really doing with this information. So we saw that perspective. I'm going to give a few minutes of what we do have from this perspective on the war. Let's see. Is it playing? It's not playing. That's weird. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, that was very strange. Sorry, guys. Technology. Okay, let me see.
It's tripping. They're tripping now.
You're going to jump on this. Are you going to follow Jesus Christ and get your life right with God? Or are you just going to keep living life until you hear that trumpet and it's going to be too late? And that's why, by the way, the devil always says tomorrow. Everyone listening, they're listening. They're like, yeah, I'll get my life right with God next year. I'll get my life, you always hear these voices in your mind. It's like, I'll stop getting drunk next year. I'll stop cheating my wife next week. And all of a sudden, you always hear tomorrow.
It's going to be massive revival is going to happen in Iran. And it's going to impact not just Iran, it impact all around the Iran, all Middle East. All Middle East is going to be touched by the grace, that outpouring of the Holy Spirit over Iran. It's going to take benefit in Jesus' name. I believe that.
Anytime you got the country that is one of the most craziest countries, Iran
pushes, we're not talking about the people, it's government. The Iranian government pushes terrorism more than any other country on planet Earth. That is a simple fact, okay? And anytime these people stand up from a podium and constantly say, we're going to hit Israel and we're going to hit the United States and we're going to wipe y'all off the map. And then they already proved it with sending 300 bombs in one moment over to Israel. Okay, so let's watch this pattern. Now, we went over there and we took out their plant so that they can do this to us. See, one of the things about the United States, she has had her problems and she always will have her problems, just like you have your problems. But there's a technology that has got, there's a reason why the two countries that have better technology than anyone else, hands down, is the United States and Israel. Hands down. Israel is the only country that the United States actually purchased weapons from because they have Patriot systems that are on a higher level than ours. Okay? And so, but that's for a reason, for precision. The enemy doesn't care where he hits you. But with people that are godly or righteous or trying to be careful, they have precision. So that's why he told them, now, so he did that with Iran. Okay? And then the people, what they don't show you on the news is the Iranian people were rejoicing. Okay? Then you know that we had a situation in Nigeria where they were killing all those Christians. So he went over there, sent the special forces over there and wreaked havoc on these fools and killed them. The Nigerian people were rejoicing. They called me. Then he flew over to Venezuela and picked up the president of Venezuela. Flew him by the Statue of Liberty to show him what freedom looks like. Threatened Colombia and said, you next, you better watch your behind. Okay? But then went back to Venezuela and threatened them and says, I will drop more bombs on you if you don't let go of those 800 pastors that guy put in jail. See, you see this pattern of every time he goes into something, you see three things. He goes in, the media talks about him like a dog, but the people rejoice after he makes the decision. The Iranian people have been in straight bondage for decades. Their government recently has been killing its own citizens in large numbers. They do not let the gospel in, and they shut down the internet so that the people could not send out messages to around the world. Look at what our government is doing to us. How many know we got CIA? We got CIA operatives around the world. They probably, some of them here right now. And so you can't hide from us. And so Donald Trump said, okay, that's it. That's it. He said, these Iranian people have been crying for freedom for a long time. So they hooked up with Israel, and the Holy Ghost told me, he said, this is not about bombs. He said, this is about the people, he said, who will get saved as a result of evil being suspended. Okay? There are some instructions God can't tell men because they don't have the ability to listen. They would rather listen to their denomination or their political persuasion or listen to their whatever. Holy Ghost, he made that clear. He said, we do things in threes. He said the Israelis are going after the men. He said Trump is going after the machines. He said you all go after the demonic forces that are behind it all. The purpose of the church, everything you see in the movies is speaking of something good or evil or in between. And so, excuse the example, but most of you saw Doctor Strange. And there was a scene in Doctor Strange where the Avengers met the guys, these, whatever you call them, wizards, whatever. They met them and they said, who are y'all? And they said, I'll never forget this. They said, you all deal with the physical threats that you can see. They said, we are the ones that deal with the mystical threats that you can't see. And in this planet, there's always the natural threat and there is the invisible threat that is empowering the physical threat.
Thank God for that, minister. Again, I appreciate his.
Yes, and I'll leave that for you guys. So I wanted you to see the two different perspectives, right? Because constitutionally, no, we cannot say you have to be under the Christian religion. Now, as a Christian person in a position of authority, you do have an obligation as a Christian to do right by other people. But you cannot force those people to be Christians. I hope everybody can follow me on that. As a Christian, it is your obligation to do right because you decided to follow God. You decided to do what's right by other people. That's your obligation. It is not your obligation to oppress people. right? That's where that line is drawn. That's why I said loving people is doing right by them, no matter how you feel. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do right by other people, not wrong, but right. So thank you guys for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. Unfortunately, I will not be on the air tomorrow. I almost forgot I have a standing engagement actually at the Capitol building tomorrow. So I might get some footage. I might not. We will see. If things change and I'm able to be on the air tomorrow, because where I need to do at the Capitol is later on in the day, we will see. But as it stands right now, I will not be on the air, but I will be back on Friday. So thank you guys so much for joining me here for Women in Wellness Wednesday. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.